back in 2005, the concept of a charter school was really foreign to a lot of people. And there were tons of misconceptions and things that we were trying to do in terms of creating a different school where students were using the outside world and not staying within the four walls of a classroom to actually learn. And it was so different for people.
When we started, I wasn't sure what project-based learning was.
We had a committee that we started with community members, the superintendent, myself, a couple teachers, some business folks from Augusta. We just sat around and talked about, okay, well, how would we do this? What's important? What would be the purpose? Why? You know, the whole thing was just kind of a building process at that point. We did get some partners in from like Rick.
He was the key person for forming the alliance for Beaver Creek and us and the school. So he was like that middle person. Yeah, he was all for it.
Mr. TWEED and myself had talked about it for a long time. I mean, for a while. We had worked with students from Augusta when he was teaching science there and had started a summer program to get them out in the field to do work. And it was really his dream to start the school. I really had nothing to do with that, although we had talked about doing it out here at the reserve because we thought it'd be a natural fit.
And I worked with Paul TWEED and Jeff Hadorn. Used to work with co-teach a science class, middle school science class with Jeff for many years, and worked together with Paul and Jeff on their summer science program that they used to have. And I would say that was probably the instigation for Wildlands.
By the time we opened, which literally was the fall of 2005, and we had our goal of 40 students. We had 20 high school students and 20 middle school students, which in some cases took a lot of recruitment because nobody knew about this place. We had to do PR, we had to get advertising out there, we had to draft newsletters, we even bought airtime on the local TV stations and just kind of did all these things to try to get students.
Oh, I do remember that first day of Wildlands, and it was scary for me. I'm not sure if the other teachers, Miss Seibert or Mr. TWEED, they had that same feeling because it was so new. Nobody was doing it like around here like we were going to do it. And there was a fear of, for me, it was like a fear of failing. And I was not going to let this thing fail.
The charter world opened up education for, literally they were labs. They were lab schools. Try something, see what happens. As long as the students were succeeding. So there were always these caveats in there that, you know, if it doesn't work, it's not going to last very long. And our attitude when we started it essentially was, if it doesn't work, we don't have a job.
The onus was never put on the students. The onus was always put on us. How can we make things better? What can we do to make it better? Let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's try something else.
At the beginning of that first day, meeting as a group, putting out those expectations, how, you know, this is going to be a different school because we are family. You are with each other 8 hours a day.
One of the craziest things was that we did not receive money or funding to start this school until late October, early November. And we had 40 students that showed up on the first day of school, and essentially we had a building and Beaver Creek Reserve to work with.
Liz and I went to Walmart and just on the school credit card with the hopeful paying back with charter money, just bought all sorts of stuff that we could get in the students' hands so that we could do some things.
And I think one of the coolest things was we sat down with all the students and we said, what do you want the school to look like? Here's an opportunity that we all have. We're going to build this together. Some of the kids had paper and pencil. Some of them showed up with nothing. And they were just like, we want something different. We don't want rules, you know, hanging from the walls of the classroom.
It's up to you. Tell us how you'd like it to be. And the students came back, and one young man said, he just raised his hand. He said, well, we were talking about it. We just thought we better act like humans.
I think at that point, very specifically, we learned that students are not only capable of so much, but their perspective is really important, and giving students that voice very early on as to like what the school would be or could be was incredibly valuable.
If you're going to be here, this is how we live. And I think that flipped the script at that time to shared responsibility for how this place operates.
I think the biggest part was that between Mr. TWEED, Mr. Hadorn, and myself, we believed in what we were doing. And so as a result of that, we were the ones, we knew we had to paint the picture for the community of what this was, and the fact that we were working with kids in a different way. They were learning all day, every day. They were learning how to be amazing humans. They were learning what it meant to be community members. And we were creating a place where students wanted to be.
And initially, the first few years, there was a lot more natural, environmental stuff that they did. And I know since then they've expanded into a lot of other fields, but initially that's what they did. I mean, they were tracking bears and turtles and doing lake studies and stream studies, and the school has grown since then, obviously, to branch out into a lot of different areas.
Wildlands being part of the school district also allows students to still participate in WIA sanctioned sports, to still be part of other extracurricular and co-curricular things like the musical, like archery, a number of things outside of just sports. So, one of the advantages of Wildlands is the smaller class sizes, right? One of the limitations of that then can be not necessarily having enough kids to have your own basketball team or enough students to put on a full-fledged musical. So it still allows kids then the opportunity to still be part of the broader school district and participate in those things.
Then on that third year, when those kids, I think it was the third year, the parents said, no, I don't want our kids to leave. And we were like, oh no, what do we do now? Because we are not prepared for this. And so it took a lot of time and effort to figure out a way to be able to accommodate all the kids, and not a single kid went back once we offered it for freshmen. All those kids stayed, and year after year we had a really good rate of kids coming back that wanted to stay at Wildlands.
The idea, I think, behind Wildlands started out as a science research kind of a outdoor environmental school, really focused on those things. But because of the small nature of the school, and because we couldn't manage it like a normal school as an institution, we didn't have as many hands on deck. We didn't have all the different staff. We didn't have custodians. We didn't have cooks. We were working with Augusta School District for a lot of those things where it was possible. But we started to form a community, and the students started pitching in. And we started having student jobs, and we started working the program so that everybody who came here was part of the institution.
When a student is a relevant stakeholder, it means that they're given agency or choice. It means that they have ownership. They get to feel like whether they perform well or not matters. And they have the ability to voice suggestions and offer room for change and improvement. So having relevant stakeholders in our student body at every level of our programming is really important.
School jobs aren't only important for the students, but it's important for the teachers and the function of the school. The teachers aren't able to cover everything that needs to happen. We don't have the availability for that many teachers, so we work with what we have. So partly, the school jobs are to help the teachers and help the functioning of the school, which in turn helps the students. But the other part is giving students experience and opportunity, which can lead into real life jobs. You can put it on an application. I can say I'm a tour guide. That's my school job. And it's very important for incoming students, other project-based schools, or people who are just interested in potentially starting a project-based school. It's important to help support those communities and support our own.
Everybody has to write a resume and a cover letter and do a job application for whatever job they're applying for and interview for it, and they prepare all their answers to a bunch of different questions, and it's kind of stressful, but it also really helps you to understand what it will actually be like when you interview for a real job. so you have some kind of idea of how to act and how to like present yourself.
They submit those materials of application to Wildlands. We hybridize all of the applications for all the different positions, and then in early October every year we bring in a dozen or more community members who are volunteers to make up our interview team. It's important to note that there are no full-time Wildlands teachers on those interview teams, and that's really intentional and really on purpose so that our students get to experience a simulated interview experience. Instead of creating a curriculum where we try and talk about how to do a job interview, by the time our Wildlands graduates leave Wildlands, they've actually experienced no less than 4 professional interviews. If you define success by having the skills that you will need and the experiences to connect those skills to be successful in life after Wildlands, then you have a pathway to success already out in front of you because of your high school experience, rather than simply applying a really narrow definition of what academic success looks like.
So a project is something that the students want to learn more about, something that they're curious with. It can be something simple like how does a kite work, or it could be something huge like how do you make a boat landing. And so they'll come to us with driving questions and a roadmap for what they want to do, the timeline for it, what they want to gain from it, resources. And so then along the way I'll check in with them, make sure that they're meeting those benchmarks, staying on track for getting done on time, all that good stuff.
Very early on there was this vision of let kids lead the way in terms of what they're passionate in learning, and then we can help guide them. We are not going to be the person that stands in front of the room and tells them exactly what they need to know. We are not interested in students memorizing facts and then regurgitating them for whatever purpose. They need to learn how to be humans and solution finders, and as a result of that, learning essentially can take place anywhere, anytime, and it's all about questions.
Life is a big project, and under the umbrella of that big project are all these little projects, and they all start with essential questions, and then we have to figure out what we already know, and we have to figure out what we don't know.
When you're immersed in the project-based learning world, you start to see projects everywhere. And if you can start planting the seed for your own self that a project topic could be just around the corner at the grocery store, or just around the bend on your road trip with your family. Like, project topics are endless, they're infinite, and if you can start poking around and trying to discover what you might be interested and passionate about, it'll be more fun to work on the projects that you choose because you're excited to learn about those things.
So one of the things that makes us really unique, and what in the very beginning of our school made us fairly radical, is that we made the commitment that there would be no such thing as one Wildlands. That the concept of Wildlands looks different based on which student you talk to, because you can't have a one-size-fits-all student-centered program.
You have to see what are the students interested in, because that's what's going to determine what they do. You know, if you don't have a huge number of people that want to do the science stuff, well, what do they want to do? And that becomes your focus. Rather than we make them do this, they draw us to do whatever they need to do, and we learn from that as well.
Project-based learning is learning through projects that you come up with and that you do. It's like you came up with this idea, you want to learn more about turtles, and you start a project about turtles, and then you do this research, and you're like, wow, I like turtles. And so you keep going with it, and you can make it as big or as small as you want, but you still learned about turtles, and that's what makes it part of the school, is you're learning about a topic, but it's something that you came up with and that you're happy about learning.
For me, what makes it something I want to do and I seek out closing projects is it's a celebration. It's being able to be like, heck yeah, you did this and you did it at such a high level, and being able to share that moment with you, and also being able to see that growth. Like, I love closing projects with freshmen because I know by the time they're juniors, I'm just going to be blown away by what they do and what they give me. And so that conversation really helps me see exactly what they got out of the experience, how much it's worth, And also, yeah, is this something they're super excited about, and how can I support that and keep it going? Because we never want to close something that people aren't proud of. We want them to walk away feeling like they've really accomplished something. Even if it failed, even if it, didn't go as planned and there's not enough time to get something else done, it's still something to celebrate because there was growth, there was learning, and there's a next step. And so being able to have those connections and share those stories is always, it's so meaningful to me, because to me that's the part about like treating students like people, because I'm not just giving you a grade and I'm not just saying this is what you deserve. You're telling me your process and what you learned and how you grew and what you want to do next.
I started a couple of Rocketry projects this year, and something that was really helpful for that was being able to use the 3D printer. And I had no idea how to use a 3D printer at the beginning of the year, but I did a lot of research and I just kind of played with it and figured out how to use it, and now I'm able to make any part I need for any project I need. I've had a couple of rockets already. We made XP1, which is a rocket that was completely printed and it just to fly a payload, and then there's a couple other smaller rockets, and then right now we're building a rocket for the American Rocketry Challenge, which has to complete a certain mission, so we're just building that and hopefully it works and will do well. Personally, I'm into rocketry, building things, and I can do that if I want to. I have to put in the work and I can make that happen, or someone who's interested in, I don't know, like cooking or whatever, they could probably find a way to do anything they're interested in as well.
I love that adults make these fake rules and think that a test is going to tell them what a kid knows. Drives me nuts. Like, why do we do that to kids? I think when you can have a conversation with a teenager and they can sit there and tell you the 17 million facts that they have learned and how that relates to the question that they asked, the process that they went through, the experts that they talked to, how they've written about it, what they're doing for their final project, and then especially if it has some sort of a community impact, I just sit there in awe and I'm like, how can you not say that this kid has figured this out? When you look at the way universities and things have trended over the past couple of years and what's become important to them and valuable to them, it's not the testing anymore either, and I love that. Testing is a really easy, lazy way, in my opinion, for teachers to measure progress of a student. If you want to know how much students have learned, you sit down and you have a conversation with them.
So this professor taught this freshman level, college freshman level intro chemistry course. It was very, very challenging. It was often like a weed out course that all science majors of any sort, whether it was medical sciences or physical sciences, had to take this course. And it was exceptionally challenging for many students because they had never had that level of independence in their own study, right? It's like the college model is maybe you have 3 hours of lecture and the expectation of another 10 plus hours of independent study, doing your homework, doing the readings, making sure that you're taking care of those things for yourself that you have to do. And so the reason I brought up this professor is he did a lot of research into that. He did a lot of research that just shows this challenge that students have in terms of how they spend their time and knowing the right ways to channel their time and energy in college. There's a ton of research that backs up that students really across the board struggle with this, no matter how successful they are in a traditional high school model. And I think that Wildlands students probably don't have that level of struggle because they've spent 4+ years honing those skills.
Our role as teachers in middle school and high school is to offer ideas, lots of ideas, all the time. There's lots of ideas, and we pull kids along on projects and field trips that we think might inspire them to do more, or at least experience something once.
The relationship between the two schools is really special. The middle school, we're really focused on giving kids the foundational skills of how to be project-based learners. And most of that, honestly, is social and emotional skills of self-management, self-awareness, being kind community members, and learning how to take personal responsibility so that at the end of the day, you're taking ownership over your own education. And when we get to the high school, then all of a sudden you have high school credits where if you want to graduate on time, you have to live those social and emotional values that we've been practicing in middle school. And the connection between the two schools that I think is so special is when we ask high schoolers to come and work with our middle schoolers, we're both giving the high schoolers an opportunity to practice leadership, which is something that we really value in the high school as is. And middle schoolers, when they're around older, more mature students, live up to that standard, and it brings out the best in them.
So our middle school is similar to our high school, but it's not the exact same model. That's on purpose. The middle school has a little bit more daily structure that all the students are following at the same time. We're helping them manage their time, essentially. So the project structure is pretty similar. In the high school, you get to manage a little bit more of your time, and you're transitioning between math to your anatomy project, to your writing project, to your speech, whenever you choose. But in the middle school, we've found that it's really helpful for these younger people and newer project-based learners to have that transition time be a little bit more structured to make sure that math actually happens throughout the week.
Almost everyone, when they are a freshman, struggle with it because it is still different than the middle school, where the teachers are very helpful and leading you into the projects. But once you get in high school, you have to determine kind of what you're going to be doing, and the teachers are just there to lend a helping hand and assist you with the projects.
So I feel like the middle school is a little bit more structured. Those students still have power to follow passions, but there's a lot more guidance, a lot more assistance in helping find those passions and how to do things. And then also just ways to do projects, even if it's an assigned project. The high school, you start learning ways to explore your own passions and your own projects. And that's what makes a successful wildlander, in my opinion, is someone who is not afraid to explore those passions or explore what those passions may be, even if they don't have one yet.
An 8th grade project is something that 8th graders do to kind of present what they've learned throughout being in the middle school. So it's we do passion projects a lot. This is the main project. Basically what an 8th grade project is, it's choosing something you're passionate about, but turning it into something that you could use in the future.
Senior project is something that you, it kind of caps your whole experience at Wildlands. So a lot of people choose something specific to a career path that they want to continue forward in the future.
My senior project is working with Caradori Pottery, Dave Caradori. I've been working with him for about 1.5 years now. Specifically, my senior project is kind of broad and doesn't have a specific end goal. It's a little bit more fluid with what I'm learning when I'm there. It's generally learning the process of not just how to make pottery, but how to run a business. What are all the steps in it? How do you get the most out of what you're doing? We use a lot of recycling products. We buy raw materials. We don't buy pre-mixed glazes. How can you save money? How do you calculate how much money is going into this one pot and how much time and all of those different things? I'm learning the entire business process, and that's my senior project.
I hiked the Appalachian Trail February of 2017 to July of 2017. And that was after I graduated. So yeah, I took about a 6-month period of time to save up and get some experience at a job, and then I went out and started my journey. Yeah, so I first started the Appalachian Trail a little before most people started during the season, which created a pretty cold environment. Previous to that, at Wildlands, I had done a winter camping project, which was my senior project at Wildlands, which gave me incredible experience for how the body functions during winter camping. As I went through the trail changing of seasons, creating friendships, a lot of things that Wildlands had helped me navigate through in the past. I didn't feel that experience I couldn't accomplish. I felt towards the end of the trip and the end of the journey, I felt very proud, and I had worked on my personal self a lot. But the end of the trip wasn't about the accomplishment, it was about the journey that had happened all throughout the whole trail.
Wildlands would not just be science research, it would also be immersive outdoor experiences, get to know the environment instead of just, looking at it as a field trip. Go learn how to live there and play there and have fun and survive there and things like that.
Yeah, so something I loved about Wildlands is that each trip was pretty available to every student, which is cool. And it wasn't forced at all. You could make your own choice on what trips you decided to take and what challenges you wanted to give your own personal experience.
So in the school year, it's very difficult to carve out the amount of time necessary to have those immersive wilderness experiences because there's so many other things that have to be learned and taught and other experiences, and there's ski trips and there's mountain biking trips and there's get up and go trips. And so we realized pretty quickly that we couldn't limit ourselves just to the school year. We had to, if we were going to be able to offer these immersive experiences, we had to be able to do so in the summertime.
And through your years, you learn all the same skills as everyone else, whether they have way more experience than you or almost none.
And the last thing that we had to answer was, then how do we make sure that if we're going to offer these immersive wilderness experiences, that our students are prepared for them?
Wildlands has a lot of elements to prepare you for any sort of backcountry trip. They have a whole system to set you up for gear and to make sure you are comfortable physically. They have a whole way of making you feel safe and comfortable with the people you're around, a lot of group building activities, then obviously just a lot of group conversations about how the trip is going to go down, super technical details. There's a lot of preparation, I think, that goes into trips depending on the intensity of the trip.
Yeah, I really think everyone can and everyone benefits from going out on these excursions out into the wilderness, whether it's for a day or 3 weeks. We really start from the bottom up and work everybody into it, and you never need to feel pressured to have your own gear because the school supplies pretty much everything besides your clothes.
We were able to create an opportunity for students in the summer outdoor adventure program that allowed them to have these immersive wilderness experiences and do so at almost no cost to them or to their families, where if that same wilderness experience was taken advantage of through a private pay organization, oftentimes you're looking at between $150 to up to $300 per student per day in a way that's just totally disqualifying for so many students, and now they get to have that type of experience.
I had worked at a private school previous to coming to Wildlands that demanded a level of rigidity and structure of its teachers that took away any possible ownership over my own classroom and the education that I was providing my students. And when I learned that Wildlands would allow me to build relationships with students as well as lean into the outdoor education side of things, my background includes leading wilderness trips, canoe trips and backpacking trips all over North America. And when I learned that at Wildlands I would get to build rapport with students through the lens of outdoor travel, it was a no-brainer for me because I've seen the power of working with students in those settings, and I know that it can translate to academic success when you come back to school. So that was the biggest selling point for me, and it's proven true.
I have been successful in school, and I have found times that I've struggled in school, right? And I think sometimes nature has a way of grounding you, even though it's vast, right? And so even when I'm here working at Beaver Creek, there's only so many emails, screens I can look at. I have to get up, I have to walk around, I have to talk with people, I have to re-engage. The project-based learning that the Wildlands School does gets you out of, I think, whatever the regular mold of the traditional school is, and provides so many of those opportunities that I, for one, find successful in my own career. And so being able to then, every student is different, every style of learning is different, but having the playground, right, that is Beaver Creek, and allowing each of the students to grasp a hold of the piece that makes it easier for them to learn and be successful. I think that's what's fun about this partnership. And the proof's in the pudding, right? You know, the test scores, the outcomes of successful students, the ability to have a student come to another professional and say, hey, I have this idea, and run with it.
I had the unique experience of serving on the Eau Claire School Board while my kids were at Wildlands. So I had 9 years on the Eau Claire School Board, so 9 years of a traditional, amazing system. There's a lot of amazing things going on here. But Wildlands' ability to respond to the child and have self-directed learning and basically an independent education plan for every child just doesn't exist in big systems.
The way I think of it is I've had to learn the project process in the same way that students have. It's like, you know, look at the freshmen coming into the school either from a different place or from the middle school, and it's just you have to learn the general ways of doing a project, including stumbling a bit, how to fail a little bit before you can succeed.
We let children know that we didn't know, and so we're part of the learning process with the students. And I think that's one of the reasons why it does work so well, because I don't know everything, and in the traditional school, you don't hear teachers saying that. And I think that the interaction between kids that way, it's very human that way.
So teaching all the different subjects, I think, is the most beautiful thing. That, I think, is probably my favorite part about this job. It's always surprising what you're going to do every day, and you're never boxed in. I'm not teaching physics 5 hours in a row with the same exact lesson plan. Different students, of course, but like that can be a little bit less inspiring, I would say, in my experience. And so teaching all of the subjects together, it feels natural, it feels fun, it feels inspiring, and I don't feel intimidated by the breadth of information that a student would hope to learn, because I feel confident in our ability as a community, as a school, to access resources that can help students.
That's one of the parts for the project-based learning. The freedom is that it's something that they want to do, not a curriculum that a teacher's, forcing down their throat. And so in order to have a kid, so it's meaningful to them, they have to take ownership in it. And that ownership, you have to give them the freedom to go and explore different avenues. And so that's really the real reason why they have to have that freedom. And as long as they know how to control that freedom and they don't take advantage of it.
I think the biggest thing that Wildlands gives to students is those higher order, like executive functioning skills, the ability to organize your day, the ability to make independent choices, the ability to kind of see the things that you want and have the confidence that it takes to go out and kind of seek those things out for yourself.
But at the end of the day, the teachers want to help you in your learning process to the best of their ability. They're catering to you, not asking you to cater to how the school works.
Well, I think that the school gives students, or some students that don't fit into the traditional school setting, an opportunity out here. I mean, a lot of the kids that, I don't know now, in recent years, this maybe changed, but when they started, a lot of the kids that came out here didn't fit in back at Augusta or Fall Creek or Canoe, wherever they were going to school. And they just didn't like that traditional school setting, and this was a setting that they could thrive in.
And I think that's where we learned a lot, that, say, wow, these kids that you wouldn't think are very good students in the classroom are exceptional in this project-based format.
And it was great for teachers too, when you look at, the ways in which we were able to evaluate students over the years. It wasn't tests. It was, can you take what you've learned and can you teach it to someone else? Or can you tell your story about your project? And so from start to finish, with that question, what did you come up with for your answer? And how did you get there?
So Wildlands is unique for many different reasons, but some that stand out to me is the smaller community. I don't know very many schools nowadays where you have, an average of 12 to 15 kids per class. And with that, I think that kids are able to establish and grow much better relationships with their teachers.
Going to Wildlands was so helpful because, I was actually interested in what I was learning about. I could actually, be invested in learning, and I wanted to learn. At public school, I just felt like I was doing what they told me to do, and it felt like chores. I wasn't learning anything, I wasn't getting anything out of it. And when I went to Wildlands, I actually wanted to learn, and I could learn about what I wanted to.
Yeah, so in a regular public school system setting, which I had experienced before I went to Wildlands, I had a hard time because the drive was not in my own hands. I had to kind of be subject to a lot of other people's needs, and something that made Wildlands so wonderful for me was that I was able to take that into my own control.
It's a great honor to be a teacher here after I've been a student, because this is the place where I grew the most. I was really quiet and shy, and I didn't do good in school at all when I was at Augusta High School. But then when I came to Wildlands, I bloomed. I became louder. I took on so many different projects. I started getting good grades. This place taught me how to learn. And so being able to give back to students and also help them get that experience, it means the world to me.
I remember a young lady who couldn't even talk one-on-one with anybody hardly because she was so shy as a 7th grader. When she was a senior, she led our big meeting at the end where people were presenting their projects to parents and interested community members. She was up there, and she had so much poise and confidence that you thought, wow, would that have happened any other place than Wildlands?
I think Wildlands really helped me in the way that it allowed me to kind of get out of school and still do what I like, but still apply it to school. So when COVID was around and we weren't allowed to be in school, I was outside of school volunteering, building trail at a local area, and already improving my skills and my qualities in that field, not even realizing that that's what I was going to be pursuing in the future. So I'm a professional mountain bike trail builder now. I travel throughout the Midwest and the South year-round and build mountain bike trails full-time.
The old saying is, it takes a village. Well, we have buy-in from our students, but the staff are also working towards the same goal of a family atmosphere, and their parents are bought into the same goal of having a family atmosphere. And when you put all of that together, there's a lot of power.
And as teachers, what we've learned is there's many times when we look and say, boy, that doesn't seem to be a lot. There's a lot of, especially wintertime, kids sitting at the tables in the lab, and doesn't appear to be a lot going on. But then as you look closer and deeper into it, you see a lot more things happening than what you think. And it always became real evident when we would have our semester reviews with the students, the finals. And you look at all that they had done, the vast majority of students. And then at graduation time, when they play the video, and you go, wow, did they do a lot of really cool, innovative things. So yeah, I think the freedom is really big, that it's up to you, you learn that it's up to you, and it's not being forced down your throat by the teachers.
From a distance, it doesn't look like there's any order. It's total chaos and no communication is going on. But we've been here long enough, and we've been doing project-based learning at a student-focused and outdoor way long enough so that when you come closer to the picture, what you see is that there's a real intentionality and a real order to the chaos.
The minute I start to really think about Wildlands, I get a little bit emotional. It feels really special to be a part of this story. The things that happen out here are truly amazing, and the day-to-day might look mundane to someone who's not seeing it, but the process that it takes to produce something fabulous or intricate or well done, it takes time and it takes process, and it's not perfect. But to watch it go from start as just a thought to some sort of finished product that a student can look back and say, I'd worked for so long and I was really successful in the end, and I had challenges and I can reflect on it, but look at this thing. Like, I'm so proud of this thing, and it feels really special to be a part of that story.
I think that Wildlands lets your child stay who they are. I think that is really what they do best.
I guess it was something I wish I had an opportunity to do when I grew up. I wish there were schools like this.
So for me, family is about being there for each other. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood, where you come from. Family's who is there for you at the end of the day. Who's there when your day's bad, who's there to celebrate the great things with you. And this is the first place that I have ever worked where I felt like I was actually a part of a family, because from the top down to the students, everybody's there for each other. You're coming together like when things are like tough and when things are going smooth, and you eat together, you travel together, you know. So for me, Wildlands really truly is like what family is.
And that idea that no matter what I'm interested in, no matter what another student is interested in, there is this lowest common denominator that connects all of us, which is treating each other well, having each other's back, and acting like a small family here at school and a big family with all of the people that are connected to our school all over the world and all over the country.
There are very few schools where, because of the size of this, like the impact, and it's crazy the way the staff here especially is afforded the opportunity to get to know kids on a completely different level. I mean, I have a lot of teacher friends in other schools and whatnot, and they always talk about their kids and how they get to know them, but it's really for 1 year for the most part, or maybe a semester or something. And like, to celebrate with families when something really cool happens for them, like, it's so cool to be a part of that in such a small way, and to just to celebrate all the kids that are here on a completely different level. Like, I don't know as though there are other schools out there where kids really truly feel that. Like, you walk in here at Wildlands as a student, you're scared as a 7th grader, you're like, what is this place? But when you leave as a senior, you're like, oh my goodness, like, this is my family, and they will be forever. It wasn't that they were here for 6 years and they left your life. Like, they stayed with you.
I can't tell you the number of times where, you know, a new student has come here, and all through the history, I had 17 years as the lead teacher here and founder, and instead of playing all those tricks that we play in schools, right? Here's your list of rules, and here's your you only get 8 points, and you're at 7, and in on 8, you know, we're going to have to put you in the yoke out front from the medieval times, you know, or whatever. And we didn't want to play those games. So just sitting down with students that didn't quite get it at the time and say, we don't do that here, you know? You get to decide, right? You get to decide if you want this to work for you. We're not going to force it on you, because this is a choice. And I think it really makes a difference when someone feels like they're a student, especially, who's a lot of times been programmed for a lot of our education. I was for my entire education, and someone told me what to do all the time. But having value in your own autonomy, I get to make some choices. I get to be part of it. I get to feel like I'm valued and my voice is heard, right? That's fundamental to human existence if you want to be healthy. And I think that, you know, that goes back to treating students like people. So.